But leaders in Minnesota were unable to grasp the idea of immigrant poverty. They were more afraid of being called racist if they did their job to try and deal with potential welfare fraud within the Somali community. Our next guest says there's more to the fraud story, and he's a Somali-American refugee and naturalized U.S. citizen who lives in Maine. He recently told the Maine Wire Steve Robinson that Somali cultural issues are part of the problem with what's going on in Minnesota. And Abdi Iftin joins us now. Abdi, thank you for being with us here today.
Abdi Iftin, I got to make a quick comment. A lot of Black people, people of color, they don't realize that the racism stuff, it's actually being weaponized against us. Do you understand what I'm saying? The racism, the race card, all that. Yes, there was a time when it may have been weaponized against white people or non-Black people. But now the racism card, the race card is being weaponized against us because the race card is being played by people who prey on our community. These so-called leaders, people like Al Sharpton, people like Jesse Jackson, they literally are using the race card to fight off anyone who recognizes what they're doing, identifies what they're doing, and then comes in an attempt to hold them accountable for what they're doing, right? They can get rid of them by just saying, oh, you're racist. And that's what was going on in the Somali community. There were whistleblowers, as they always are. These people, many of whom were not Somali. There were news channels. There were investigators, all that. But when those people sounded the alarm about potential fraud that was going on in the Somali community, those people were scared away by the threat of lawsuits over racism. Understand that. So if someone is operating as a con artist in the Black community, but another person who maybe is white or Asian or Hispanic sees something that the people in the community don't see, and they call that person out for what they're doing, and that person says, "Get out of here, you racist," before I sue. Does that change the fact that the people getting hurt and taken advantage of are Black people? Does that change that fact? I don't think so. That's why I'm so against the race card. Like, if something is racially motivated, call it out. But that's not something that's supposed to be just used frivolously or just thrown out lightly. Because what you do is you end up hurting yourself. That's why you have to carefully police and supervise how accusations such as someone being a racist are used on your behalf. Because the same people you think are fighting for you, there's a chance that they could eventually end up turning on you. And you don't want to be on that side of the argument.
What is more to the story? What are the deeper issues?
First of all, thanks for having me. There are much deeper issues. I've moved into the U.S. And in Maine about 11 years ago. And basically the first question that members of my community asked me, which tribe, I belong to. And when I mentioned, so I fell into that category. So there's a deeper tribal rivalry going on in the community, much larger than anybody can actually imagine. And then interestingly enough, even though I spoke very good English, one of the things that I was told to do is go find a discounted housing Section 8, which I didn't know what actually it was, and sign up for all the other community benefits within the government or the state. And my response was, I'm actually here to work and build, basic and become part of the American fabric, which is
Abdi, I'm
pretty much what I've been
incredibly
working on
fascinated
for a
by
while.
what you're having to say, so much so that I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just want to clarify. So when you felt that pressure and you were told to go join public welfare programs once you moved here. Where was that pressure coming from? Are you saying it's like cultural, like neighborhood, like neighbors telling you this is what you should do? How were you pushed in that direction?
Well, it was coming from the community that actually thought that that was just a way of life, right? Instead of being asked about what kind of school I want to go to, what subjects I would love to study, and those interesting conversations weren't there at all. And my response was, can we do better things? Can we as a community actually integrate? And let's listen to that word, interestingly, because that had got me a huge backlash. This is many years ago that many people thought, no, let's not talk about integration. And I wasn't ready for that. I wasn't ready for a pushback against this idea of sort of melting into America, becoming part of America. And
right.
Let's just be very clear that I haven't arrived here as a young man. I mean, I came here at age 29, so I was well.
Yeah, so that's crazy. I mean, it was at the point in the Somali community that even the idea of integrating was something that they were like, you're going to get turned on. You're going to be looked at as not a part of the community if you even suggested or flirted with the idea of actually becoming an American. See, and people might say, oh, well, how can you support these people? How can you support these people removing people from the country who look like you? Listen, everyone who comes to America is expected to assimilate and become part of America. You becoming pro-Black, like in the vein of like African Americans, that is still a part of the fabric of America. That is still a part of, or a characteristic of, a certain demographic that is considered to be American, right? So this idea that you somehow have to give up your pro-Blackness to be accepted in America, that's not true. That's not true. Most people in America, white and Black, would say people like Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, people like that, they Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton, these Black people who were pro-Black, most people would say that these people were good for the country. They were good, and they're part of what it, learning about them, learning about their contributions to American history. Most people, white, Black, blue, or green, would say, hey, yeah, that's a part of what it means to be an American. So when you see this Somalian man saying, well, when I said, hey, can we be a part of America? Can we go get a job? I want to go to college at 29 years old and study something. And they're looking at him like, what is this coon talking about? You know that there's a huge problem. There's a huge issue within that community. I'm sorry to say it, but it just is what it is. There's a huge issue in that community when the idea of assimilating into America is looked down upon, is frowned upon. And the funny thing is, they work so hard to not be considered American, and then turn around and cry when they have to leave America. Make it make sense.
Informed about my culture and my community growing up in the civil war in Somalia.
Incredibly, you're telling me you not only were discouraged from integrating into America, but you were also encouraged to stick to your tribal allegiances from back in Somalia. And those tribal allegiances and divisions remain here in America. That stat I showed, I'm curious, Abdi, about the percentage of the Somali population on some form of welfare, 80%, and stays that way over a 10-year period. Does that surprise you?
In some ways, it does not. Let me give you one example here. When I was in Somalia, a huge part of the population in Somalia, we're talking about 20 million people.
Wait. Did he just say 80% of the Somalian community gets on welfare and then stays on welfare after 10 years? Oh, yeah. 78, 80%. Yeah. That's what this graph is highlighting next to them. 81% of Somalians after 10 years from 2014 to 2023 was still on some type of welfare assistance 10 years after arriving in this country. See what I'm saying? So when people compare them to like, oh, and I hate this, people say, oh, well, what about the Irish? What about the Scottish? Oh, what about the Chinese? What about all these groups? What about Black Americans? Well, they immigrated here. No. These people didn't immigrate here to be on welfare. They immigrated here to get treated like crap, get beat up and abused, and even killed, and then worked to the point where they were assimilated into American society. Have you ever seen the movie Gangs of New York? Remember the Dead Rabbits? Or what was it called? I think it was called the Dead Rabbits. If you never watched that movie, remember they would walk with the dead rabbit on their on a pole. And the dead rabbit was the symbol of the immigrants who came to America who were fighting to be accepted. If you remember the movie, the main character, his dad was killed because they were fighting to establish themselves in the 5 Points of area of New York. They literally died to assimilate into America. They forced their way in that way, but they died to be a part of America. They didn't die and come here and die to remain something separate from America while in America. And so when people say stuff like, oh, they're trying to make Minnesota Somalia, I actually believe it. Because even this guy is saying that the same tribalism that drove them out of Somalia was still very much present within that community in Minnesota and in Maine, where he lives now. Or maybe he moved to Maine to get away from that. There's no group of people where everyone is all bad. There's always someone in that group who knows something is wrong to do, and they speak out against it. It just so happens that in my community, African-American community, and in the Somalian community, the majority of people will just turn on you if you're not willing to go along and get along with the nonsense. And look, what Abdi was telling them, the fact that he was warning them, to me, that gives them no excuse, and it makes me, I don't feel any remorse for the ones who are getting deported. You have people like Abdi warning you. You have people like Abdi trying to become more American. And what did you do? You turned on them like a pack of wolves. And now you got to go. I'm happy. Let's keep Abdi. The other ones who don't want to be a part of what it means to be American, they can leave. They can go back to Somalia.
Somalia, a huge number of that depended on $100 that family members in the U.S. sent back home. So there was not a lot of work to rebuild the country or get to work or, just basically building things. So this whole idea of receiving things the easy way has unfortunately actually evolved and became part of our way of life for 30 years. And I really don't want to put this on Somali'S. I have like-minded friends within my community, but we're minority. We're actually shut down every time we try to speak out.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. Listen, if Abdi thinks we don't understand, we understand 100%. This is literally what it means to be African American and to be a conservative or someone who continuously tries to appeal to common sense. You are going to be shut down. They're going to turn on you, and they will probably try to do physical harm to you if they don't think they're going to get caught. Imagine being a Black conservative in California. We're hated not only by white liberals, we're also hated by Black liberals. And then we're even hated by Black people who don't even know anything about politics. But it is what it is. You got to stand up for what's right. And what we know, and I want people to pay attention to this, what we know is that eventually the chickens got to come home to roost. And when you continue to live your life based on and perpetuate ignorance and negative stereotypes, eventually it will come up. It will come back to bite you. it will come back to bite you in the butt. And I think that's a good point to transition to our next topic, because this is a perfect example of that. If you ask me, we have a Black Lives Matter leader, founder, who has now been arrested and charged with fraud. Is this something that we didn't see coming? Is this something that we didn't know? We know that BLM was full of scammers. If you look at Patrisse Cullors, for as much as she says she hates the white man and all this crap, she got $90 million donated to Black Lives Matter by Caucasian-owned corporations after basically waging a racist campaign against Caucasian people. Did she use those funds to say, you know what? Let me start rebuilding the Black community. Let me build a park. Let me put a stone with somebody's name carved in it. Let me make a wall with people's names on it who got killed by the bullet. No, she did not. She used that $90 million to move to Calabasas, a 99% Caucasian area, and purchase multi-million-dollar homes in real estate. And I'll let you guess, where you think she purchased that real estate? You think she purchased it in Watts? You think she purchased it in Mobile, Alabama? Of course she didn't. She purchased it right smack dab in the middle of white neighborhoods, except for one house that I believe she bought in Jamaica. Well, she hasn't been indicted yet, but her little cronies, the ones who she did pass money out to, guess what? They're going down. And you know that paper trail is going to lead, I believe, I hope, I pray, that paper trail is going to lead to Patrisse Cullors while she lives in her mansion out in Calabasas, smack dab in the middle of all the white folks that she claimed to be so afraid of.
She was arrested for civil disobedience, bailing out around 6 hours later. She was arrested for civil disobedience, bailing out around 6 hours later, but she has a court hearing tomorrow morning to find out exactly what fine she faces.
We are being detained.
This video showing her arrest. She and more than 20 others taken into custody after blocking traffic.
The officers, they were not excessively forceful. They explained that if you did not vacate the area, then we would be held under arrest and charged with civil disobedience. There was a case that was concerning another young woman by the name of Samba. That young lady, I do believe they used excessive force in that sense. She was not part of the action. She literally was trying to move.
Several different organizations participating, including Women's March National and the Center for Popular Democracy, all protesting the Senate confirmation hearing for Judge Amy Coney Barrett.
We all feel collectively that there should be no confirmation until after the inauguration, because the people should decide.
The group also bringing attention to reproductive rights, immigration issues, environmental justice, and equality for minorities.
Today was about basically collective power and power of the people. We're going to have to lift our voices and stand for one another like we never have before. Because at this,
I don't know if this lady's name is Tashella or Tashila Dickerson, but I played that clip just to give you an idea of what type of person she is. Basically an agitator for Black Lives Matter. They show up at different places. They go to protest over things that have nothing to do with the preservation of Black life. It's funny how Black Lives Matter never protest at they never protest at Planned Parenthood, the number one place that's exterminating Black life. Does anyone find that strange? That Black Lives Matter never protest at the place that is the number one exterminator of Black life. You'll never see it because they don't care, because that's not who they've been. That's not what they've been given marching orders to protest. That's the biggest issue. So I just wanted to give you an idea of who she is, what she's all about. And now we're going to get into what's going on with her.
Oklahoma City, charged with embezzling money meant for Black Lives Matter OKC.
Reverend T. Sharia Moore Dickerson is charged federally with wire fraud and money laundering. KOCO's Olivia Hickey on this breaking news for us right now. She joins us live in the newsroom. What are you learning, Olivia?
Yeah, guys, it's just coming into our newsroom. The Department of Justice claims Dickerson deposited over $3 million in returned bail checks into her personal account from the Black Lives Matter Oklahoma City's account from June 2020 till at least October of this year. Some notable expenses the funds covered include recreational travel to Jamaica and the Dominican Republic for herself and associates, at least $50,000 in food and grocery deliveries for herself and her kids, tens of thousands of dollars spent in retail shopping, a personal vehicle registered in her name, 6 properties in her name or in the name of Equity International LLC, an entity only she has control over.
That's how they hiding it. That's how they're hiding the theft in the LLCs. Now, what did it say? Recreational travel to Jamaica and the DR. All this money they've collected in the name of defending Black lives is actually just being spent for recreational travel, purchasing luxury vehicles, and buying ridiculous amounts of groceries. $50,000 for groceries. Come on, y'all. $50,000 for groceries. Tens of thousands of dollars spent on shopping sprees. I said it a long time ago. And I was called a traitor. I was called the C word, COON. I was called all types of names. Oh, you ain't on code. You ain't on code. You're right. I'm not on code. With someone using the death of Black males to collect millions upon millions of dollars and then not using that money to defend that demographic. It was women too who were killed by the police. But where's their justice? You're getting this money on their behalf. They gave their life so that you could live your life doing the work of making America safer for African Americans. We can have a conversation. We can have a conversation about that. But look at what's going on. They're getting all these millions of dollars and just blowing it. Guys, is there a Black Lives Matter community center anywhere in the United States? If anyone knows, let me know. Raise your hand. Is there a Black Lives Matter community center anywhere in the United States? That's what I want to know. That's what I'm asking. Is there a Black Lives Matter after school program anywhere in the United States of America? I know the answer is no. Because the goal was never to do anything for the Black community. Would I say that there's a problem with a disproportionate amount of Black deaths occurring at the hands of police? Yes. Yes, there is. But is there a problem with Black people committing a disproportionate amount of the crime in America based on our numbers? Yes. So what's the problem? It is the way the police treat Black people what needs to be addressed, or is Black people, for whatever reason, feeling like they need to commit crime the point that needs to be addressed? See, because as long as we keep making it just about law enforcement, well, it leaves room for the thieves and the con artists to come in and scam. And that's what they're going to do. It's their nature. But until we we need to address the problem in a holistic way. That's the only way to really get any real tangible results. Why would you take $90 million and put it in the hands of a bunch of hyper emotional Black women and say, here's the money, now do the right thing? they're not going to do the right thing. They're going to do exactly what they did. Go on shopping sprees. Go out to the DR to participate in whatever's going on out there. Not a single penny was spent to do anything to help defend and protect the Black community. It was just a payday for them. In their mind, it was just a windfall. They don't care about what's going on in the community anymore. Patrice Cullors way out in Calabasas talking about she retired now. Yeah, she got what she wanted. She got what she came for.
Wow. Doesn't this sound familiar? Doesn't it sound familiar?
Yes, it does, Greg.
So she went out and she bought properties. She spent tens of thousands of dollars in retail shopping. So lavish gifts. Went to Jamaica, the Dominican Republic, right? Living life. Okay? Living life off of these funds that's supposed to go towards nonprofit initiatives, right?
Protests for racial justice following George from the grants was supposed to assist people arrested in connection to protests for racial justice following George Floyd's death. The indictment also alleges Dickerson used interstate wire communications to submit 2 false annual reports to the Alliance for Global Justice on behalf of BLM OKC. She reported the funds were only used for tax-exempt purposes. The DOJ says she did disclose the funds went toward personal benefits. She faces up to 20 years in prison and up to $250,000 for each count of wire fraud. Now, within the last hour, Dickerson did post to her personal Facebook page on a Facebook Live saying she's been advised by her attorney not to comment. We did reach out to her personally as well this afternoon. We have yet to hear back. That indictment is now live on KOCO.com for you to view. Stick with us as the situation unfolds. Reporting live in the newsroom, Olivia Hickey.
Incredible. Absolutely.
Yeah, she's been advised not to say anything because they know she's guilty of sin. She's going to try to work out some type of plea deal. But the purpose, the bigger, lesson in all this is how long is the Black community going to keep falling for this? And I would say, how long is the white community going to keep falling for this? Because we know the majority of the donations came from white people. The ones who Black people say are so racist, and every last one of them is a member of the Klan. If we can get white folks to donate $90 million in an effort to protect Black life so that it can be stolen by the frauds and con artists that run Black Lives Matter, I don't think the issue is racism anymore. You might not agree with me. I would love to see what you think. But if you can generate this type of money, if you could launch a movement that has spanned over a decade now, all in the name of protecting Black life, and the Klan ain't jumped in F-150s and came and got you and strung you up by your neck until you're dead, I don't think the issue here is racism. I think there's a deeper underlying issue that I feel many of us have identified that is simply not being addressed. It's simply not being addressed.